Tonight from downtown Indianapolis, the Fever welcome in the Seattle Storm with major playoff implications on the line tonight.
All right, y'all, look, it's a big one tonight, okay? It's an important one. This has got to be our best 40 minutes. This has got to be our most intentional 40 minutes in everything that we do, okay? Look, no one person needs to do anything outside of themselves, right? But every single person in this locker room needs...
What if I told you that the Indiana Fever didn't just win a basketball game last night? What if I told you they rewrote history 6 different ways while their biggest star sat in street clothes, watching from the sidelines? And what if I told you that this wasn't just a victory, it was a declaration that sent shockwaves through the entire WNBA? Because at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, something extraordinary happened. The Fever absolutely demolished the Seattle Storm by 20 points, but that crushing defeat was just the appetizer. The real story: 6 franchise records fell in one magical night, and suddenly everyone's...
And Izzy McMagor in the center jump circle. We are underway from Indianapolis. Odyssey Sims tracks down the jump ball and lays it in.
Sims wearing bright pink shoes, passes to Mitchell, right corner 3. It's good, and it's a record! 771 points and counting in 2025 for Kelsey Mitchell, the most in Fever franchise history.
Asking the same question. If they can do this without Caitlin Clark, what happens when she comes back? Let's rewind to Tuesday night in downtown Indianapolis, where the Fever welcomed the Seattle Storm with massive playoff implications hanging in the balance. This wasn't just another August game. This was do-or-die basketball wrapped in the most incredible spectacle the WNBA has seen all season. The energy around Gainbridge Fieldhouse felt electric hours before tip-off, and there was a reason why. Nike had chosen this exact moment, this exact game, to unveil Caitlin Clark's signature logo to the world. The double C symbol
It was really unique. I think it's very creative for Caitlin Clark to come up with something like this. And I just enjoy all of it. It's like aura.
We love it! It's simple, yet it speaks a lot.
I love it so much.
I'm a big fan of it. Simplicity is the best. I like the design. Nike always does great with design, so I'm a huge fan of the logo.
It looks really cool. I was really excited to see it last night, and it looks like we're going to get shirts with it on it, so that's pretty exciting too.
I like it. I like how it incorporates the CC.
I love it. Double C's.
Just appear on merchandise. It conquered the entire building. Picture this. Thousands of fans streaming through the doors, each one receiving a limited edition t-shirt bearing Clark's brand new logo. Within minutes, the entire arena transformed into a sea of unified white, like some kind of massive team uniform stretching across every seat. Giant displays outside the building glowed with those iconic double C's, while banners and merchandise created a visual feast that made this feel less like a regular season contest and more like a citywide celebration.
Good. Got the pants, got the charms, necklace, zipper.
This wasn't just WNBA basketball anymore. This had become a cultural event. But here's where the story takes its first dramatic turn. While Clark's logo lit up Indianapolis, she remained planted firmly on the bench in street clothes, sidelined by the groin injury that's kept her out for 16 straight games. And she wasn't alone in those street clothes. Sophie Cunningham, Chloe Bibby, Sydney Colson, and Ari McDonald, all unavailable, all watching from the sidelines. 5 key players gone, just like that. The Fever were heading into this crucial playoff race battle.
It's where you get it to her, getting it to her on time, on target, thinking one pass ahead, all that matters. And I thought today, her aggressiveness with the ball in her hands to the rim, getting into defenders, playing low to high instead of high to low. When she plays like that, there's nobody that can stop her. And, she set the tone for us, really on both ends. She had the NECA assignment as well. And
with a roster that looked more like a hospital ward than a championship contender. The timing couldn't have been worse. Indiana had dropped 4 of their last 5 games, watching their playoff hopes slip through their fingers with each devastating loss. Every basketball analyst in the country was asking the same question. How do you survive in the WNBA's brutal playoff race when your best players are watching from the bench? Coach Stephanie White didn't sugarcoat it. She told her remaining players that this had to be their most intentional 40 minutes of basketball.
You know, there's very few people who get the opportunity to say that they have a logo and to make the impact that she makes, not just, I think, in the sport, but globally, just by being who she is. She's a connector. She brings people together. And, you know, I think for us to be a part of that, and whether it's, you know, as simple as being able to celebrate all of these things with her, or, you know, as much as walking out into the arena and seeing the whiteout on the chairs out there, it's really cool. And it's really special and shoot, I'm talking about it right now, and just feeling the intense gratitude for me personally, being in women's basketball, to be able to be a part of this moment.
All season. This had to be made basketball in August, playoff intensity when the calendar said otherwise. Then came the moment that changed everything. Just minutes into the first quarter, the entire arena fell into stunned silence. Lexie Hull and Seattle's Gabby Williams went up for a loose ball and crashed together with a sickening collision that echoed through Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Heads smashing together, both players crumpling to the floor, and suddenly that celebration atmosphere turned into collective panic. Hull walked off with a massive knot already forming on her forehead, and you could feel 18,000 fans holding their breath. With 5 teammates already out, losing Hull in that moment would have been catastrophic. But sometimes the most defining moments in sports happen.
Williams were slow to get up after a collision underneath the basket. Here's what happened.
Well, that is a major collision for the two of them. They both knock heads. It took them both some time to get to.
When everything looks hopeless, less than 10 minutes later, Hull checked back into the game with that swelling still visible on her face, and the place absolutely exploded. The crowd erupted, her teammates rallied, and something fundamental shifted in that building. Coach White would later call the hit disgusting, but Hull just shrugged it off, laughing when teammates told her she looked beautiful with the lump. That kind of toughness doesn't just inspire individual players. It transforms entire teams. What happened next was basketball poetry in motion. The Fever didn't just win. They dominated in a way that left Seattle searching for answers. Indiana never trailed, not once. They scored at least 21 points in every single quarter while holding the Storm under 20 in each. This wasn't a hot streak or a lucky run. This was systematic destruction, the kind of balanced, consistent performance that championship teams display in their biggest moments. 3 players stepped up to carry the offensive load, and each one delivered in spectacular fashion. Aaliyah Boston bullied Seattle inside the paint, finishing with 27 points on efficient shooting that made every possession look like a mismatch. Kelsey Mitchell sliced through screens and made backdoor cuts that left Storm defenders scrambling, while Odyssey Sims provided veteran leadership and clutch shooting that included a wild, contested bank shot from 35 feet that sent the crowd into absolute hysteria. But the real magic was happening in the record books, where history was being written faster than anyone could keep track. Let's start with Kelsey Mitchell, who didn't just have a good game. She made history. By dropping 21 points, Mitchell surpassed Caitlin Clark's franchise single-season scoring record, a mark that Clark had set just last year. Think about that for a moment. These 2 players are going to trade this record back and forth for years to come, and we're watching the beginning of what could be one of the greatest individual rivalries in WNBA history. Mitchell wasn't finished there. She also became the league leader in 20-point games this season, sitting above every other scorer in the entire WNBA. While everyone's been focusing on Clark's injury, Mitchell has quietly been building a case as one of the most consistent offensive weapons in the league. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston was creating her own chapter in the history books. She hit 1,000 career rebounds, becoming only the second youngest player in league history to reach that milestone. The only player younger? Tina Charles, meaning Boston joined some seriously elite company. But that wasn't her only achievement of the night. Boston also became the second fastest WNBA player ever to reach 1,000 rebounds and 350 assists, trailing only the legendary Candace Parker. 2 names, Boston and Parker, alone in that category. That's the kind of versatility that defines franchise players. Odyssey Sims proved that her addition to the Fever roster has been more than just veteran depth. She became the second fastest player in franchise history to reach 50 points and 25 assists. The only one who did it faster? Caitlin Clark. Suddenly, Sims finds herself in direct conversation with the Fever's franchise player, showing that she's been an immediate difference maker during Clark's absence. Then came the achievement that really stopped everyone in their tracks. Boston, Mitchell, and Sims all scored 20 or more points while playing fewer than 30 minutes each. That combination, 3 players with 20-plus points in under 30 minutes, has happened only 6 times in WNBA history. For a team that's been scraping together wins and battling through injuries, this was a flex that nobody saw coming. The final record was all about team basketball at its finest. The Fever made more free throws than Seattle even attempted, while recording 22 assists on 36 made field goals. This wasn't individual heroics. This was total team domination, the kind of complete performance that signals a franchise ready to take the next step. By the time the final buzzer sounded on Indiana's 95-75 victory, the Fever had accomplished something remarkable. They'd moved from 8th place to 6th in the standings, climbing back into solid playoff position with a performance that announced to the entire league that they're not going anywhere quietly. But all of this raises the most intriguing question of the season. What happens when Caitlin Clark returns? She's been out since June 15th with that groin injury. 16 straight games, 25 total regular season contests, plus the Commissioner Cup final. That's a massive hole for any team. But the Fever have somehow used her absence to discover their own identity. Coach Stephanie White has been clear about her expectations for Clark's return. She doesn't want her thrown back into games cold. She wants to see her in full practice, handling contact across 94 feet, building the kind of endurance that playoff basketball demands. The timeline remains day-to-day, but White expects Clark back in practice by the end of this week. The playoff implications are enormous. Indiana sits at 20-18, holding that 6th seed by just half a game. 6 games remain on their schedule, and it's a gauntlet. They'll face the Sparks, Valkyries, Mercury, Sky, Mystics, and Lynx. Drop a couple of those games, and the playoff picture gets very uncomfortable very quickly. Win out, and suddenly the Fever could be riding serious momentum into the postseason. But imagine, just imagine, what this team could look like at full strength. Clark's unlimited range, paired with Mitchell's slashing ability and Boston's inside dominance. Add Sims' veteran playmaking, Hull's defensive tenacity, and the depth that's been developing during these injury-plagued weeks. That's not just a playoff team. That's a matchup nightmare that could give any opponent serious problems. The domino effect of Clark's return would be immediate and devastating for opposing defenses. Boston would see more open looks inside as defenses stretch to cover Clark's range. Mitchell would have another elite creator alongside her, making her own scoring opportunities even more abundant. Players like Hull and the supporting cast would thrive in the open space that 2 elite offensive weapons naturally create. Here's what made Tuesday night so special. It proved that this Indiana Fever roster isn't just waiting around for their star to return. They're building something significant right now, creating an identity based on toughness, depth, and an unshakable belief in each other. 6 records in one night isn't luck. It's a statement that this team has championship-level talent throughout their lineup. When you look back at this game, it feels like a preview of something much bigger. The Fever showed that they can dominate without their biggest name, which means they might be absolutely unstoppable with her. Clark's return isn't just about adding one player. It's about transforming legitimate playoff contenders into a team that nobody wants to face in a 7-game series. The records that fell on Tuesday night might only be the beginning of what this franchise can accomplish. With Clark's return on the horizon and this core group continuing to develop chemistry, the Indiana Fever aren't just climbing back into playoff position. They're positioning themselves as a team that could define the next era of WNBA basketball. The dynasty doesn't start when Clark comes back. It started the moment 6 records fell in one incredible night in Indianapolis.